The iron key turned with a reluctant click, and Kate Winters pulled open the heavy door of her father's safe. The metal groaned a sound that echoed through the empty office like a dying breath. Inside, stacks of bills that had once filled the small vault now amounted to a pitiful pile. She counted them again, her calloused fingers moving mechanically across the worn paper. $147, the same number as yesterday. The same impossible number that stood between her and complete ruin. She sat back in her father's leather chair, the cracked material protesting under her weight. 6 months. 6 months since George Winters had drawn his last breath in the bedroom upstairs, his weathered hand clutching hers, his final words still burning in her memory like a brand on fresh cattle. Silver Creek will save you when I cannot. She had thought he meant the stream itself, the water that cut through their land like a vein of life. But creeks did not pay debts. Creeks did not silence the hunger of bankers. The Texas sun slanted through the window, painting golden stripes across the floor. Dust motes danced in the light, countless and weightless. Free. Kate touched the edge of her father's desk, her fingers tracing the carved initials he had etched there 20 years ago. G. W. George Winters. A good man. An honest man. A dead man. The sound of footsteps broke her reverie. Maria Delgado appeared in the doorway, her weathered face creased with concern. The older woman said nothing, but her dark eyes swept over the open safe, the scattered papers, the defeated slump of Kate's shoulders. In that look passed a lifetime of understanding. Maria had raised Kate, had been more mother than hired help, had watched this girl become a woman, and this woman become the sole guardian of a dying dream. "Mija," Maria said softly, and the single word carried the weight of unspoken questions. Kate closed the safe, the lock clicking back into place. 3 days, she said, her voice flat. That is what we have left. Maria crossed herself, lips moving in silent prayer. She stepped into the room, and Kate noticed something she had seen more and more lately. A hesitation in Maria's movements, a shadow behind her eyes. Secrets, Kate thought. Everyone has secrets, even those we trust most. "Your father," Maria began, then stopped. She twisted the dishcloth in her hands, the fabric wringing tight. "He was a good man." "Yes," Kate agreed. "Good men die. Bad debts remain." She stood her 26 years feeling like 60. The drought had taken 2 years of crops. The cattle plague had taken half her herd. Her father's illness had taken the last of their savings. And now the bank would take everything else. The Lazy W Ranch, 2 generations of winter blood soaked into this Texas soil, would be auctioned to strangers in 72 hours. Maria moved to the window, looking out at the land. "Perhaps," she said carefully, "there are things your father left behind, things that could help." Kate felt a flicker of something. Not hope. Hope was dangerous, but curiosity perhaps. "What things? I do not know, Mija. But he spoke to me near the end. He said if anything happened, if you were ever in trouble, there were people who owed him, people who might help. Ghosts do not pay mortgages, Maria. No, but debts outlive the men who make them." Kate wanted to ask more, but the older woman had already turned away, retreating to the kitchen with that same secretive sadness that had haunted her since George's death. Kate watched her go, then returned to the desk. She pulled open the top drawer, rifling through the familiar contents. Bills, receipts, a deed to land that would soon belong to the bank. And then wedged in the back corner something she had never noticed before. An envelope yellowed with age, sealed with red wax. Her fingers trembled as she broke the seal. Inside a single sheet of paper, her father's handwriting sharp and deliberate across the page. "To whoever finds this, if I am gone and Kate is in trouble, find Nathaniel Cole in Colorado. Tell him I kept his secret. He owes me everything." Kate read the words 3 times. Nathaniel Cole. She had never heard the name. Colorado seemed as distant as the moon. And what secret? What debt? Her father had been a straightforward man, or so she had believed, but this letter suggested depths she had never known, currents running beneath the surface of the life she thought she understood. She folded the letter, slipped it into her pocket, and stood. 3 days until the auction. No time to chase ghosts in Colorado. No time for anything but acceptance of the inevitable. The afternoon sun beat down mercilessly As Kate walked to the barn, the heat rose from the earth in waves, distorting the horizon. Texas in summer was a kind of hell, beautiful and brutal in equal measure. She saddled Penny, her chestnut mare, and rode out toward the northern pasture. Work was the only medicine for hopelessness. Work made the hours pass. Work kept the mind from dwelling on futures that would never come. She was mending a section of fence when she heard the wagon approaching. Silas Jenkins, the bank's representative, drove a black buggy that looked like a hearse. Appropriate, Kate thought, since he came to bury dreams. She straightened, wiping sweat from her brow, and waited. Jenkins climbed down with the stiff movements of a man who spent too much time behind desks. His wire-rimmed spectacles caught the sun, hiding his eyes. He carried a leather folder under one arm. "Miss Winters," he said, his voice professionally sympathetic, the kind of sympathy that cost nothing and meant less. "Mr. Jenkins, I apologize for the intrusion, but I felt it necessary to deliver this in person." He opened the folder, produced a document covered in official stamps. "The final notice. The property will be auctioned on Saturday at noon, unless, of course, the debt is settled in full before then." Kate took the paper without reading it. She knew what it said. $2,000. $2,347 to be precise, including interest and fees. She almost laughed. The precision of it. As if those extra $347 made any difference when she had $147 total to her name. "Mr. Jenkins, my father did business with your bank for 20 years. 20 years of loans repaid on time, of trust kept. Surely that counts for something. Surely the bank can extend the deadline." Jenkins removed his spectacles, cleaned them with a handkerchief. Without them, his eyes looked smaller, almost kind. Almost. "Miss Winters, I have already extended your deadline. Twice. The drought has affected everyone, not just you. The bank has obligations to its investors. I am sorry, but the decision is final." He handed her another paper. The auction notice, her home, her land, her legacy reduced to printed words on cheap paper. Jenkins climbed back into his buggy, clicked his tongue at the horse. The wheels rolled forward, kicking up dust that settled on Kate's skin like ash. She stood there long after he disappeared, the papers clutched in her hand. The sun began its descent toward the horizon, painting the sky in shades of amber and blood. Somewhere in the distance, a coyote called. The sound was lonely and defiant. When she returned to the house, the shadows had grown long. Maria was preparing dinner, the kitchen filled with the smell of beans and cornbread. Simple food. Poor food. But made with care. "He came," Kate said, dropping the papers on the table. Maria glanced at them, crossed herself again. "Dios mío." "God is not listening, Maria. Or if he is, he has chosen not to intervene. Do not speak so, mija. There is always hope." Kate sank into a chair, suddenly exhausted beyond measure. "I found something today. A letter from my father. He mentioned a man, Nathaniel Cole. Do you know that name?" Something flickered across Maria's face. Recognition, fear. It passed too quickly to identify. "No," she said, but her hands had gone still, the spoon frozen above the pot. "I do not know this name. He said this man owed him, that if I was ever in trouble I should find him." Maria turned back to the stove, stirring with renewed intensity. "Your father knew many people. He helped many people." "Who was Nathaniel Cole, Maria?" "I said, I do not know, mija." Her voice had taken on an edge Kate had rarely heard. "Perhaps it is better to leave the past buried." Before Kate could press further, a sound cut through the evening air. Hoofbeats. A single rider approaching fast. Both women moved to the window, peering out into the gathering dusk. A man on horseback emerged from the twilight, his form silhouetted against the dying light. He rode with an easy confidence, his body moving in rhythm with the horse. As he drew closer, Kate could make out more details. Tall, broad-shouldered, dark hair too long beneath a weathered hat. He wore dusty trail clothes and a gun belt slung low on his hip. Everything about him spoke of distance traveled and hard living. Kate reached for the shotgun her father had always kept by the door. Her hands were steady. Fear had no place on a ranch, only caution. The rider stopped 20 feet from the porch. He dismounted in a single fluid motion, removed his hat. Even in the fading light, his eyes were striking. Blue. the kind of blue found in deep water or winter skies. They fixed on Kate with an intensity that made her grip the shotgun tighter. "Evening, ma'am," he said. His voice was deep, roughened by wind and weather. "My name is Nathaniel Cole. I am looking for Miss Kate Winters." The world seemed to tilt. Kate felt Maria's sharp intake of breath beside her. The letter in her pocket suddenly weighed 1,000 pounds. "I am Kate Winters," she said, keeping the shotgun visible but not raised. "And you have impeccable timing, Mr. Cole." He glanced at the gun at her face, and something that might have been respect crossed his features. "I heard about your father, George Winters. I came as soon as I could." "Heard from whom? We are not in the habit of sending telegrams to strangers in Colorado." A flicker of surprise. "So you know about Colorado?" "I know you supposedly owe my father a debt. I know nothing else, including why you would ride however many hundreds of miles based on news of a man's death." Nathaniel Cole stepped closer, and Kate raised the shotgun an inch. He stopped immediately, hands visible, palms open. Non-threatening. But his eyes never left hers. "Your father saved my life 8 years ago," he said simply. "I owe him everything. And since I cannot repay him, I would like to help his daughter." "Help how?" "I understand the bank is foreclosing. I understand you need $2,000. Kate's heart began to hammer. "How do you understand that? How do you know anything about my circumstances?" "I stopped in town on my way here. People talk, especially in small towns, especially about beautiful women about to lose everything they own." The compliment slid past without impact. Kate was focused on something else. The speed of information. The preciseness of his knowledge. He knew the exact amount. He knew the timing. He had not asked a single question, had not hesitated in his facts. "What do you want, Mr. Cole?" "To pay your debt." "In exchange for what?" "Nothing." Kate laughed a harsh sound. "Men do not ride across 2 territories to give away fortunes to strangers. Try again." Nathaniel Cole was quiet for a moment. The sky behind him had darkened to purple, the first stars beginning to emerge. A nighthawk called somewhere over the creek. When he spoke again, his voice was lower, almost confessional. 8 years ago, I did something I am not proud of. Your father could have had me arrested, could have seen me hanged. Instead, he gave me a chance to leave, to start over. He said sometimes a man needs a second chance to become who he ought to be. I took that chance. Went to Colorado. Worked hard. Got lucky in the gold fields. Now I have more money than I need and an opportunity to repay a debt I have carried for 8 years. A debt of what? What did you do? That is between me and the memory of your father. Kate studied him, the strong jaw, the weathered face, the eyes that held shadows she could not read. Everything about him suggested danger, even standing still, even speaking soft words of charity. Men like this did not appear out of nowhere bearing gifts. Men like this came with prices, even if those prices were not immediately visible. "I do not know you," she said. "I do not trust you, and I do not believe in fairy tales where strangers rescue desperate women without wanting something in return." "Smart," he said, and he almost smiled. "Your father raised you well." Maria touched Kate's arm. "Mija, perhaps we should invite the gentleman inside. The mosquitoes are fierce." Kate glanced at the older woman. Maria's face was unreadable, but something in her tone suggested more than simple hospitality. A test, perhaps, or a challenge. Kate lowered the shotgun slightly. "You may come in, Mr. Cole. We have little to offer, but there is coffee." Inside the house felt smaller with his presence. He was a large man, and he filled the space with a quiet energy that made the air feel charged. He removed his hat, hung his gun belt by the door at Kate's insistence, and sat at the kitchen table. Maria poured coffee in silence. Kate sat across from him, the shotgun now leaning against the wall but still within reach. "Speak plainly," Kate said. "What do you truly want?" Nathaniel wrapped his hands around the coffee cup. Strong hands, scarred knuckles, hands that had done hard work and harder things. "I want to pay the bank the full amount you owe, $2,347. The ranch stays entirely yours. I want no ownership, no stake, not even acknowledgement. And then I would like to stay for a while, help get things in order, a few months perhaps." There it was, the catch, the hidden cost. Kate leaned back, crossing her arms. Why would you stay? Because paying money is easy. But your ranch needs more than money. It needs work, repairs, someone who knows cattle and horses and how to survive a drought. I can provide that. We do not need charity. Not charity. Call it earned wages for your father's mercy 8 years ago. Maria spoke up from the stove. The mija speaks truth, senor. We cannot afford to hire help, but the ranch cannot be run by one woman alone. Kate shot her a look, but Maria met it without flinching. There was something in the older woman's expression, a knowledge, a certainty, as if she knew Nathaniel Cole or knew men like him or knew something Kate did not. How do I know you are who you say you are? Kate asked. How do I know this is not some scheme? Nathaniel reached into his coat, moving slowly so as not to alarm her. He pulled out a worn leather wallet, extracted a photograph. He slid it across the table. Kate picked it up, held it to the lamplight. The image was faded but clear. Her father, younger by a decade, standing beside a man Kate did not recognize. Between them a young Nathaniel Cole, barely into his 20s. All three men had their arms around each other's shoulders. Friends. Or at least friendly. Where did you get this? Kate's voice had gone quiet. Your father gave it to me the night he let me go, said to keep it as a reminder of the man I could become. Kate stared at the photograph, her father's face frozen in time, smiling at a camera with genuine warmth. She had so few pictures of him smiling. The weight of the ranch, the weight of responsibility had carved that smile away, year by year. If you pay this debt, she said slowly, I will insist on drawing up papers. A loan to be repaid, with no interest and no specified date, but a loan nonetheless. Nathaniel nodded. If that makes you feel better, I will sign whatever you want. It is not about feeling better. It is about maintaining my dignity. I am not a charity case, Mr. Cole. Nathaniel, he said, if we are going to be working together, you might as well use my given name. We have not agreed to work together. Not yet. The confidence in those two words irritated her. But beneath the irritation, Kate felt something else. A tiny traitorous spark of hope. 2 days ago she had been counting down to the end of everything. Now a stranger sat in her kitchen, offering salvation. It was too convenient, too perfect. And yet the photograph was real. The knowledge was precise. And something in his eyes when he spoke of her father rang true. I need time to think, she said. You have until Saturday. After that, thinking will not matter. He stood retrieving his hat and gun belt. I will make camp by the creek tonight. If you decide to accept my help, come find me in the morning. If not, I will be gone by noon, and you will never see me again. He moved toward the door, then paused. Your father was a good man, Miss Winters, one of the few I have known who lived up to that description. What I am offering is not charity. It is justice. He deserved to have his legacy protected. You deserve to keep what is yours. That is all. And then he was gone, the door closing softly behind him. Kate sat in the silence, the photograph still in her hand. Maria began cleaning up the coffee cups, her movements slow and deliberate. You knew him, Kate said. It was not a question. Maria paused. No, mija, but I knew your father kept secrets, as all men do. What secrets? The kind that protect the people they love. Kate wanted to press, but exhaustion washed over her like a wave. Too much, too fast, too many questions, and not enough answers. She went to bed but did not sleep. The moon rose full and bright, casting silver light through her window. Silver Creek will save you when I cannot, her father's words. Had he known? Had he somehow arranged this, near midnight, unable to lie still any longer? Kate rose and dressed. She slipped out of the house, moving quietly through the darkness. The creek was a 15-minute walk, the path familiar even in shadow. She told herself she was checking the fence line. She told herself she needed air. But when the creek came into view, she stopped. Nathaniel Cole sat by a small fire, his back against a tree. He was writing something, his hand moving across paper in the flickering light. As she watched, he paused, read what he had written, then tore the page from the book. He held it over the flames. The paper caught, curled, turned to ash. He did this 3 times, writing, reading, burning, each movement deliberate, each destruction final. What secrets was he protecting? What words could not be allowed to exist? Kate must have made a sound because he turned sharply. Their eyes met across the darkness. Firelight danced in those blue depths, turning them mysterious and dangerous. For a long moment, neither moved. The creek whispered between them. The fire crackled. The night held its breath. Then Kate turned and walked away, her heart pounding not with fear, but with something she could not name. Curiosity, suspicion, and beneath it all that same traitorous hope. She did not sleep that night. When dawn broke pink and gold across the eastern sky, she knew what her answer would be, not because she trusted Nathaniel Cole, but because she had no other choice. And sometimes, when the world offered only impossible options, you took the one that at least let you keep fighting. She found him breaking camp by the creek. He looked up as she approached, his expression carefully neutral. "I accept your offer," Kate said without preamble, "with conditions. You will sign loan papers. You will work as any hired hand would work. You will sleep in the cabin, not the main house. And you will answer my questions truthfully when I ask them." "Agreed. When can you pay the bank?" "Today, if you are ready to ride into town." "I am ready." They saddled horses and rode toward Brownsville as the sun climbed higher. The town was already awake, storefronts opening, wagons rattling down the dusty main street. Kate felt eyes following them as they passed. A woman and a strange man riding side by side. The gossip would start before noon. At the First National Bank, Silas Jenkins looked up from his desk with surprise that quickly shifted to calculation. He stood as they entered, his gaze moving between Kate and Nathaniel with obvious curiosity. "Miss Winters, I did not expect to see you so soon." "Mr. Jenkins, this is Nathaniel Cole. He is here to settle the debt on my ranch." Jenkins's eyebrows rose. "I see. Well, that is excellent news." Nathaniel removed a leather pouch from his coat, set it on the desk. The coins inside clinked heavily. Then he added a stack of banknotes. Jenkins counted it all with practiced fingers, his expression growing more differential with each bill. $2,347, Nathaniel said. Exact amount owed. Yes, indeed. Jenkins prepared a receipt, his pen scratching across paper. "The debt is paid in full. The foreclosure is canceled. I will have the documents drawn up immediately." As they left the bank, Kate noticed something, a look, brief, almost invisible. But Jenkins and Nathaniel had exchanged a glance, just for a heartbeat, just long enough to plant a seed of doubt. They walked to the lawyer's office next. The main street was busy with midday traffic. Wagons rattled past. Merchants called out their wares. Kate and Nathaniel had walked perhaps 50 yards when a voice called out, "Miss Winters?" They turned to see Sheriff Tom Riley approaching from the direction of his office. The lawman was in his late 40s, with gray threading through his dark hair and lines carved deep around his eyes. He carried himself with the careful neutrality of a man who had learned to navigate political waters. "Sheriff," Kate acknowledged. Riley removed his hat, nodding respectfully. "My condolences again about your father. He was a good man, one of the best I have known." "Thank you, Sheriff. That means a great deal." The lawman's gaze shifted to Nathaniel, and something flickered in his expression. Recognition, or perhaps wariness. "Do I know you, sir?" "Nathaniel Cole. I left Brownsville about 8 years back." "Cole." Riley's eyes narrowed slightly. "Yes, I remember now. The Tanner incident. You disappeared rather suddenly. I was given an opportunity to start fresh elsewhere. I took it. George Winters is doing, if I recall. He spoke to me about you once. Said you had potential if you could stay on the right path." The sheriff paused, and his next words carried weight. He also said, "A man's character shows not in his worst moment, but in what he does after." Kate glanced between the two men, sensing undercurrents she did not fully understand. Riley continued, his voice lowering. "Your father tried to talk to me about certain irregularities in town, business dealings that did not smell right. But I told him I could not act without hard evidence." His jaw worked as if chewing on words he wanted to say but could not quite release. "I have regretted that conversation more times than I can count." "Sheriff," Kate prompted. But Riley had already stepped back, his professional mask sliding back into place. "Well, good day to you both. Cole, I trust you will be conducting yourself appropriately during your stay." "Yes, sir. That is my intention." After Riley walked away, Kate studied Nathaniel's face. What was that about? What I told you. Riley works for Harlow, or at least he has in the past. Your father tried to get him to investigate Harlow years ago, but the sheriff claimed there was not enough evidence to act. He seemed— Kate searched for the word. Troubled. When he mentioned my father. Maybe. Or maybe he is just good at seeming sympathetic while doing nothing. Nathaniel's voice carried an edge of cynicism. Men in power rarely risk their positions for justice. But Kate had noticed something else. The way Riley's hands had tightened on his hat when speaking of her father. The genuine regret in his voice. The carefully chosen words about character and second chances. It felt like a message, or perhaps a warning. She filed it away with all the other puzzle pieces, the look between Jenkins and Nathaniel, Maria's weighted silences, the cryptic final words her father had left. Everything connected somehow. She just could not yet see the pattern. Herbert Wilson, a heavy man with kind eyes, drew up the papers Kate had insisted upon. A promissory note for $2,347. No interest, no repayment date. Both signatures required. Kate signed first, her hand steady. Nathaniel signed second, and she thought she saw something in his expression. Amusement, perhaps, or regret. The paper was filed, copies made the agreement official. Well, Nathaniel said as they stepped back into the sunshine, your ranch is safe. Our agreement is not finished, Kate reminded him. You said you would stay, help rebuild. I did say that. They stood on the wooden sidewalk, townspeople passing around them. Kate studied him in the bright daylight. He looked tired, she realized. Tired and haunted. Whatever he had done 8 years ago, whatever her father had forgiven, it still weighed on him. Why come back to Texas? She asked. You could have sent the money. Could have settled the debt without ever showing your face. I could have. Then why? He was quiet for a moment, looking down the street at nothing in particular. Unfinished business, he finally said. A man can run for only so long before he has to turn around and face what he left behind. That evening, they ate together at the house. Maria had outdone herself, using precious preserved vegetables and the last of their smoked beef. The meal was almost festive, though the tension beneath the surface never quite disappeared. Kate watched Nathaniel across the table. The way he moved, the way his eyes constantly swept the room, noting exits, positions, sight lines. A careful man, a cautious man, or a hunted man. After dinner, Maria retired early, leaving them alone. Kate should have felt uncomfortable, but instead she found herself asking the question that had burned all day. 8 years ago, what did you do? What did my father forgive? Nathaniel set down his coffee cup. The fireplace crackled, casting shifting shadows across his face. There was a man, Richard Tanner, local rancher. He accused me of cheating at cards. I was not, but he had been drinking. Words were exchanged. He threw the first punch. He paused, his jaw tightening. I hit him harder than I meant to. He fell badly, cracked his head on the corner of a table. For a while they thought he might die. Kate remembered Richard Tanner vaguely. An irascible older man who had died just last year. My father was friends with Tanner. Yes, he had every right to see me jailed. Instead, he came to me the night before the sheriff planned to arrest me. Said he had spoken to Tanner, and if I left town immediately, there would be no charges. That sounds like my father. He told me something I have never forgotten. Said violence was easy, but living with its consequences was hard. Said he thought I was better than my worst mistake. No one had ever believed in me like that before. The room fell silent except for the bar. Kate saw the truth in his face, the gratitude, the guilt, the strange mix of emotions that came from being saved by someone you barely knew. Is that why you are here? She asked softly. Paying a debt to a dead man? That is part of it. And the other part, his eyes met hers. Seeing his daughter about to lose everything through no fault of her own, knowing I could help, it seemed simple enough. Nothing is ever simple, Mr. Cole. Nathaniel. Nathaniel, she corrected. You have secrets. I can see them. And while I appreciate what you have done, I do not know if I can trust you. Smart, he said again. Trust should be earned, not given. Then earn it. He nodded slowly. I will try. Later, after Nathaniel had gone to the cabin and the house had grown quiet, Kate stood at her bedroom window. She could see the small light burning in the distance, could imagine him in there alone, with whatever thoughts drove him across two territories to help a woman he did not know. A soft knock. Maria entered without waiting for permission, a shawl wrapped around her shoulders. "You should sleep, mija." "I cannot. My mind will not quiet." Maria moved beside her, looking out at the same distant light. "He is a good man, I think." "You said you did not know him." "I do not. But I knew your father's judgment of character, and he trusted this Nathaniel Cole enough to suggest you find him." "That letter," Kate said. "You knew about it." It was not a question. Maria said nothing for a long moment. Then quietly, "Your father asked me to make sure you found it, if anything happened to him, if you were ever in trouble." Why did he not just tell me? Some things are easier written than spoken. Kate turned to look at the older woman. "You are keeping secrets too. I can feel it." Maria's face was shadowed, unreadable. "We all keep secrets, mija. Some to protect ourselves, some to protect others. The trick is knowing which secrets should die with us and which should be brought to light. Which are yours? The kind that keep you safe." Before Kate could press further, a sound cut through the night. Distant, faint, but unmistakable. Hoofbeats. Multiple horses moving fast. Both women froze listening. The sounds came closer, then stopped somewhere near Silver Creek. Minutes passed. Then the hoofbeats retreated, fading into the darkness. "What was that?" Kate whispered. "I do not know," but Maria's hand had tightened on the window frame, and her breathing had gone shallow. She knew something, or feared something. Kate felt it in the suddenly charged air between them. Morning came too soon and too bright. Kate woke to knocking on her door. Maria's voice, urgent. "Mija, come quickly." She dressed and ran downstairs. Tommy Reeves, the young ranch hand who had stayed on despite her inability to pay him, stood in the kitchen. His face was pale, his eyes wide. "Miss Kate, you need to see something." They followed him out to the north pasture where the land sloped down toward Silver Creek. Tommy pointed to the ground. Fresh tracks, multiple horses. The earth churned where they had stopped, circled, then moved on. "Someone was here last night," Tommy said. "Right on our land." Kate knelt examining the tracks. Deep impressions. Heavy horses carrying weight. They led down to the creek and back again. "What were they doing?" "I do not know, ma'am, but look." He walked a few yards further, pointed to something on the ground. A cigarette recently smoked. A whiskey bottle empty. Signs of men waiting, watching. Nathaniel appeared, walking up from the direction of his cabin. His hair was wet, as if he had just bathed in the creek. He surveyed the scene with a practiced eye. "Riders last night," Kate told him. "On my property." He crouched beside the tracks, his fingers tracing the patterns. 4 horses, maybe 5. Stayed about an hour. How can you tell? The way the ground is disturbed, the amount of cigarette ash. He stood looking toward Silver Creek. They were searching for something. Or someone, Tommy added quietly. Kate looked at Nathaniel. His expression was neutral, but his boots. She noticed it now. Fresh mud on the leather. The kind of mud you only found down by the creek. "Did you hear anything last night?" "I am a light sleeper. I heard horses. By the time I investigated, they were gone." "But you went down to the creek." His eyes met hers, and she saw the acknowledgement there. "Yes." "Why did you not wake us? Why did you not alert me that someone was on my land?" "Because by the time I got there, they were already leaving, and because I did not want to alarm you unnecessarily." Tommy spoke up, his young voice uncertain. "Mr. Cole, were they looking for you?" The question hung in the air. Nathaniel turned to the boy, and for just a moment Kate saw something flicker across his face. Not fear, not quite, but close. "I do not know, son." "But you think they might have been?" "I think," Nathaniel said carefully, "that when a man has money and travels alone, he attracts attention. It could have been drifters, could have been thieves, could have been nothing." But his hand had moved instinctively to where his gun belt would hang, an unconscious gesture, a tell. Kate filed it away with all the other small observations. The look at the bank, the burned letters, the mud on his boots, the pieces of a puzzle she could not yet see. "Tommy," she said, "check the fence lines, make sure nothing was damaged." "Yes, ma'am." After the boy left, Kate faced Nathaniel directly. "I hired you to help with the ranch, but I did not hire you to bring trouble to my door. I have brought you money to save your home." "And what else have you brought, Nathaniel Cole?" He held her gaze, those blue eyes unreadable as deep water. "The only thing a man can bring, Miss Winters, his past, and all the mistakes that come with it." She wanted to send him away, wanted to refuse his help, take back her signature, return to the simple clarity of inevitable loss. At least then she had understood the shape of her future. Now everything was complicated, twisted, full of shadows and secrets. But $2,000 sat in the bank with her name on the receipt. Her ranch was saved, her father's legacy protected, and this stranger had done it without asking for anything but time. "Stay," she said, surprised by her own words. "But know this. If you have put my home in danger, if your secrets threaten what my father built, I will finish what Richard Tanner started 8 years ago." Nathaniel's mouth curved slightly, not quite a smile. "Fair enough." He walked away back toward the cabin, leaving Kate standing by the creek. The sun had fully risen now, burning away the morning mist. The water flowed past eternal and indifferent. "Silver Creek will save you when I cannot." Her father's last words, an impossible promise, or perhaps a prophecy she did not yet understand. She knelt by the water's edge, dipped her fingers in. The current was cool and steady. Somewhere beneath the surface her father had believed there was salvation, but all Kate saw was her own reflection, fractured and uncertain, staring back at her from the depths. The days that followed fell into a rhythm Kate had not expected. She woke before dawn, as she always had, to find Nathaniel already working. The first morning, she discovered him repairing the barn door that had hung crooked for 6 months. The second, he had mended 3 sections of fence she had been meaning to fix since spring. By the end of the first week, the ranch looked more cared for than it had in 2 years. They worked side by side in near silence. Kate had expected awkwardness, the stilted dance of strangers forced into proximity. Instead, she found an unexpected ease. Nathaniel seemed to understand work the way she did, as necessity, as meditation, as the only honest conversation between a person and the land. He was good with horses, better than any hand her father had ever hired. She watched him gentle a skittish colt that had resisted breaking his movements, patient and sure. The animal calmed under his touch, responding to something in Nathaniel's voice that transcended words. Kate found herself wondering what other hidden talents lay beneath that careful exterior. Tommy Reeves followed Nathaniel everywhere when his own chores were done. The boy had lost his parents to cholera 3 years back, and George Winters had given him work and a place to sleep in the barn. Now 16 and gangly with youth, Tommy watched Nathaniel with the hungry eyes of someone seeking a father figure. Kate noticed how Nathaniel answered the boy's endless questions with patience, how he taught Tommy to throw a rope properly, how to read weather in the sky. But she also noticed other things. The way Nathaniel's eyes swept the horizon at regular intervals, the way he positioned himself to always see the approach to the ranch, the way his hand sometimes moved unconsciously toward his gun when unexpected sounds carried on the wind. These were not the habits of a man at peace. Maria watched them both with her knowing silence. The older woman said little, but her dark eyes missed nothing. Kate caught her staring at Nathaniel several times, her expression unreadable. Once Kate found Maria standing at the kitchen window at dawn, rosary beads moving through her fingers, lips forming prayers Kate could not hear. When asked if something was wrong, Maria only shook her head and returned to her bread. 2 weeks passed. The August heat pressed down like a physical weight, turning the air thick and breathless. Work became a test of endurance, each task completed in the brief coolness of early morning or the long shadows of evening. The middle hours were spent in shade, waiting for the sun to lose some of its fury. It was during one of these waiting periods that Kate found herself truly talking to Nathaniel for the first time since he arrived. They sat on the porch, both too exhausted to move, watching heat shimmer rise from the parched earth. "Tell me about Colorado," she said, more to fill the silence than from real curiosity. Nathaniel leaned back against the post hat pulled low over his eyes. "What do you want to know? Was it worth it, leaving everything behind?" He was quiet for so long she thought he might not answer. Then, I did not leave much behind, a bad reputation and worse prospects. Colorado gave me a chance to be someone new. And who did you become? Someone richer, not sure if that makes me better. Kate studied his profile, the strong nose, the stubble jaw, the mouth that rarely smiled. Money does not change who you are, only reveals it. Wise words for someone so young. I am 26. I have buried both parents and watched 2 years of drought kill everything my family built. I am not as young as I look. As Gus, he turned his head, those blue eyes finding hers. No, I suppose you are not. Something passed between them in that look. Recognition, perhaps. Two people who had been aged by circumstances beyond their control. Two people carrying weights invisible to others. Your father, Nathaniel said carefully. What was he like? I only knew him briefly, at the worst moment of my life. Kate pulled her knees up, wrapping her arms around them. He was steady. That is the word I always come back to. Steady and fair. He never raised his voice, never struck in anger. When other ranchers talked about hanging rustlers or running off drifters, he talked about mercy and second chances. He gave me one of those. I know, I found his letter, the one telling me to find you. Nathaniel straightened slightly. You did not mention that. I was not sure I should. I wanted to see if you would tell me yourself. Fair enough. He pulled his hat off, running fingers through his hair. It was longer than was fashionable, curling at his collar. What else did the letter say? That you owed him everything, that he kept your secret. Kate watched his reaction carefully. What secret, Nathaniel? His expression hardened. I told you about Richard Tanner. That is not a secret. That is a past mistake. Secrets are different. Secrets are things that could still hurt if revealed. Some secrets are meant to stay buried, and some secrets become lies if kept too long. They sat in tense silence. Kate could feel the wall between them, invisible but solid. She wanted to push, to demand answers, but something stopped her. Maybe the exhaustion in his eyes, maybe the recognition that she too had questions she did not want to answer. As if summoned by her thoughts, Maria appeared with lemonade tart and Precious. She poured 2 glasses, her hands steady despite her age. Drink, both of you. The heat will kill the stubborn as surely as the weak. Kate took her glass gratefully. Thank you, Maria. The older woman hesitated, then sat in the third chair. Unusual. Maria rarely joined them during the day. She looked at Kate with an expression that made something tighten in Kate's chest. Mija, there are things we must speak about, soon. What things? Old things, important things. Maria's eyes flicked to Nathaniel, then back. But not today, soon. And then she was gone, leaving her own lemonade untouched. Kate stared after her, confusion mixing with growing unease. Everyone had secrets. Maria, Nathaniel, even her father, it seemed. Kate was drowning in a sea of things, unsaid truths, half-told mysteries, wrapped in silence. That evening, as the sun began its descent, Kate saddled Penny and rode out alone. She needed space from the ranch, from Nathaniel's careful distance, from Maria's weighted glances. She rode north, following Silver Creek upstream to where it narrowed and deepened, cutting through a small canyon her father had always called the Gap. She had not been here since before he died. The place held too many memories, teaching her to fish in these waters, pointing out deer tracks in the soft mud, telling her stories of her grandfather who had claimed this land when Texas was still finding its shape. Kate dismounted, letting Penny drink from the creek. The water here ran clearer, faster, fed by some underground source that never quite dried even in drought. She walked along the bank, her boots crunching on limestone. That was when she saw it. A disturbance in the earth, about 30 yards from the creek. Not natural. The ground had been dug, creating a subtle depression. Curious, Kate approached. The soil here was looser, darker. Recently moved, she knelt, pushing aside loose dirt with her hands. Her fingers struck something solid. Wood. Rotted and old, but definitely wood. She dug faster, uncovering what looked like support beams. Old timbers that had once held something up. Or held something in. Understanding came slowly then, all at once. A mine shaft. Old. Abandoned. But definitely man-made. Her father had told her stories of silver prospecting in this area before the war. Small operations that played out quickly, leaving nothing but scars and disappointment. But this shaft had been deliberately concealed, filled in, hidden. Kate stood, her heart racing. Silver Creek will save you when I cannot. Not the creek itself, what lay beneath it, what her father had known about, what he had hidden. She turned to go back to Penny to ride home and think about this discovery, but the ground beneath her feet made a sound, a soft cracking, like ice on a winter pond. She had one moment to understand her mistake, to recognize that the concealed shaft was not fully filled, that decades of erosion had created a hollow space beneath the surface dirt. Then the earth opened and swallowed her whole. The fall was brief but terrifying. She hit hard. The breath knocked from her lungs. Pain exploded in her left ankle. Darkness pressed in from all sides, broken only by the ragged circle of sky above, 8 feet down, maybe 10. The old shaft, partially collapsed, had created a pocket just large enough to trap her. Kate tried to stand and gasped as white-hot agony shot up her leg. Her ankle would not bear weight. She looked up at the opening, at Penny's concerned face peering down. The horse nickered softly. "I know," Kate muttered. "Stupid." She tried to climb, using the rough stone walls for purchase. But with only one good leg and dirt that crumbled at the slightest pressure, she made it barely 3 feet before sliding back down. She tried again. Same result. Panic began to edge in around her rational thoughts. The sun was setting. Soon it would be dark. No one knew where she was. Maria would expect her for dinner, but would not truly worry until much later. They might not even start searching until morning. Kate settled back against the wall, trying to calm her breathing. Think. There had to be a way out. There was always a way out. Her father had taught her that. Never surrender to circumstances. Fight until fighting was no longer possible, then fight harder. She was considering whether she could use her belt to create some kind of climbing aid when she heard it. Hoofbeats, fast and getting closer. Hope surged, then caution. Those riders from 2 weeks ago had never been explained. What if it was not help approaching, but danger? The hoofbeats stopped. A voice called out. "Kate, Kate, where are you, Nathaniel?" Relief flooded through her so powerfully she almost laughed. "Here I am down here." His face appeared above, silhouetted against the darkening sky. Even in shadow she could see the tension in his shoulders, the tight line of his jaw. "Are you hurt?" "My ankle. I cannot climb out." He disappeared. She heard him moving, cursing softly. Then he reappeared with a rope from his saddle. "I am coming down. When I get there, I will tie this around you and pull you up. The walls are unstable. It might not hold both our weight. Then it had better hold fast." He descended in controlled movements, using the rope as a guide. When he reached the bottom, the space felt impossibly small with both of them in it. He was close enough that she could smell him, leather and sweat and something else. Something that was just him. "Can you stand it all?" he asked. "Not on this ankle." His hands moved over her leg, gentle but thorough. Even through her boot she could feel the heat of his touch. "Badly sprained, maybe broken. We need to get you out of here before full dark." "How did you find me?" "Tommy said you rode out. When you did not return for dinner, Maria sent me looking. Penny's tracks were easy enough to follow." He fashioned a loop in the rope, helped her step into it with her good foot. The rope went under her arms, secured with knots that spoke of long practice. "This will not be comfortable," he warned. "Nothing about this day has been comfortable." He almost smiled. Then his expression sobered. "Kate, before we go up, you found something, did not you? That is why you fell." She hesitated, then nodded. "Old mining works, deliberately concealed. I think my father knew about them." "I think you are right." "You knew too?" It was not a question. Nathaniel's face was barely visible in the fading light, but she saw the truth there. "I suspected. There have been rumors for years about silver deposits along this creek. That is why your father named it Silver Creek, I think." "Then why conceal the shaft if there was silver here? Why not mine it?" "Maybe he did, or maybe he knew it would only bring trouble." Nathaniel's voice had gone quiet. "There are men who would kill for mineral rights. Your father was protecting you." "From what?" "From people like Duncan Harlow." The name meant nothing to her. Kate filed it away with all the other puzzle pieces. Who is Duncan Harlow? The man who owns the Cross T Ranch, your nearest neighbor to the east, and a man who does not accept no for an answer. Thunder rumbled in the distance. They both looked up at the circle of sky now roiling with dark clouds. The air pressure had changed, bringing with it the electric taste of coming rain. "We need to move," Nathaniel said. "Now." He climbed out first, his movement swift despite the crumbling walls. At the top he braced himself and began to pull. The rope cut into Kate's ribs as she rose, her boots scraping against stone. Halfway up, the sky opened. Rain poured down in sheets, turning the shaft into a waterfall. Kate gasped as cold water drenched her. "Hold on!" Nathaniel's voice cut through the storm. "Almost there." One final heave, and she was over the lip, lying on solid ground. Rain hammered down, soaking them both. Lightning split the sky close enough to feel the charge in the air. Nathaniel's hands found her waist, pulling her up. They ran, or rather he ran, while half carrying her to a small structure she had forgotten existed. An old line shack, barely more than a single room, with a stone fireplace. He kicked the door open, pulled her inside. The interior was dark and musty, but dry. Nathaniel lowered her onto a narrow cot while he moved to the fireplace. Within minutes he had a fire started with wood from a box someone had left years ago. Orange light filled the small space. Kate was shivering, her clothes plastered to her skin. Nathaniel stripped off his soaked shirt, hung it near the fire. Bare-chested, he looked different, younger somehow, but also more dangerous. Scars crisscrossed his torso, evidence of a hard life, of violence survived. He found some old blankets in a trunk, shook them out. "Get out of those wet clothes. You will freeze otherwise." Kate hesitated, then nodded. Modesty meant little against hypothermia. She turned her back, struggling with buttons made stiff by water. Her ankles screamed with every movement. Finally, wrapped in a rough wool blanket, she sat back on the cot. Nathaniel had done the same, his own blanket draped over his shoulders. The storm raged outside, wind howling through cracks in the walls. But inside the fire built warmth. Kate watched the flames, trying to process everything. The hidden mine. Nathaniel's admission of prior knowledge. The name Duncan Harlow. The pieces were there, but she could not quite see how they fit together. "You lied to me," she said quietly. Nathaniel did not pretend to misunderstand. Not lied, withheld. "That is the same thing. No, a lie is telling you something false. I simply did not tell you something true. There is a difference." "Not one that matters." Kate turned to look at him. In the firelight, his features seemed carved from stone. "You came here knowing about the silver. You paid my debt knowing it would give you access to this land. What is your stake in this, Nathaniel?" He was silent for so long she thought he would not answer. Outside, thunder rolled like God's drums. Finally he spoke. "When your father helped me, he told me something. Said there were men in Brownsville who would kill for what lay beneath his land. Said he had chosen to leave it buried to keep his family safe. He made me promise that if anything happened to him, if you were ever in danger, I would come back. I would make sure you did not lose everything to men who had no right to it." "What men, Harlow?" "Among others." "And the debt you paid, where did that money really come from?" Nathaniel's jaw tightened. "I told you, Colorado, goldfields." "All of it." His eyes met hers, and in them she saw the struggle. Truth versus protection. Trust versus safety. When he spoke again, his voice was barely above a whisper. Most of it, but not all. Kate felt cold despite the fire. "Where did the rest come from?" "Duncan Harlow. He hired me to come here, to get close to you, to find out if the rumors about silver were true." The words hit like physical blows. Kate stood forgetting her ankle and cried out as pain lanced through her leg. Nathaniel moved to steady her, but she jerked away. "Do not touch me." "Kate, let me explain. You are a spy, a liar. You let me believe you were here to help when all along you were working for someone else." "I was, at first." His voice had an edge of desperation. "But things changed." "What things?" "You. This place. I came here planning to do a job, collect payment, and move on. But your father was right about you, about what you are trying to protect. And I cannot go through with it. Cannot or will not. Both." Kate laughed a bitter sound. "And I am supposed to believe that, supposed to trust that you have suddenly grown a conscience. I do not expect you to believe anything, but it is the truth." Thunder cracked directly overhead, making the walls shake. Rain poured down the chimney, hissing in the flames. They stood in the small space, the fire between them, tension thick enough to cut. "Why tell me now?" Kate asked. "Why not keep lying?" "Because you almost died tonight. Because keeping secrets was not worth watching you get hurt. And because—" he stopped, something shifting in his expression. "Because what? Because I have been alone for so long, I forgot what it felt like to care about someone. And I care about you, Kate Winters, more than I should, more than is smart." The confession hung in the air between them. Kate searched his face for deception and found only raw honesty. It terrified her more than the lies had. "You do not know me," she whispered. "I know you work until your hands bleed. I know you would rather starve than accept charity. I know you loved your father so much you are willing to destroy yourself trying to preserve what he built." Nathaniel took a step closer. "I know you are stronger than anyone I have ever met, and I know that every moment I spend here, I betray Harlow a little more and betray myself a little less." Kate's breath came short. The space between them felt charged electric. She should be furious, should send him away, should protect herself from this man who had come here planning to use her. Instead, she found herself asking, what does Harlow want? The land, the mineral rights. He has been buying up property all along Silver Creek for years. Your father's ranch is the last piece. Without it, he cannot fully exploit what he thinks is underneath. And is there silver, real silver? I do not know, maybe. But whether there is or not, Harlow believes there is, and that makes it real enough to him. Kate moved to the small window, looking out at the storm. Lightning illuminated the world in brief, stark flashes. "My father kept this secret, died keeping it. Why? Because he knew what men like Harlow do when they want something. They do not ask nicely, they take. But we could be rich. The ranch could be saved forever. Or you could end up like the dozen other small ranchers who mysteriously died or disappeared when they stood between Harlow and what he wanted." Kate turned. "My father. Did he die naturally?" Nathaniel's silence was answer enough. "Tell me." "I do not have proof, only suspicions. But the timing of his death, right when you were most vulnerable, right when the foreclosure became inevitable. It felt too convenient." Kate felt the world tilt. Her father, murdered. For land. For the possibility of silver. For greed. The blanket slipped from her shoulders, but she did not feel the cold. She felt nothing at all. Numbness spreading through her like winter frost. Nathaniel caught her as her knees buckled. He held her as great wrenching sobs tore from her chest. All the grief she had bottled up, all the loss and loneliness and fear, came pouring out. She wept against his bare chest, her tears mixing with the dampness still on his skin. He said nothing, just held her while the storm raged outside, and a different storm broke inside her. When the tears finally subsided, Kate pulled back. Nathaniel's arms loosened, but did not release. Their faces were inches apart. She could feel his breath on her lips, see the conflict in his eyes, the want and the restraint. "I should hate you," she whispered. "You should. But I do not. You should." She reached up her hand, finding his jaw, rough with stubble, warm and solid and real. "Tell me to stop." "I cannot." The kiss was not gentle. It carried desperation and confusion and something that felt dangerously like hope. Kate poured her anger into it, her grief, her fear. Nathaniel met her with equal intensity, his hands in her hair pulling her closer. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. The fire had burned low, casting dancing shadows across the walls. Outside, the storm was beginning to ease, thunder moving into the distance. "This does not solve anything," Kate said. "I know. You are still a liar." "Yes. And I still do not trust you." "You should not." But even as she said it, Kate knew something had shifted. The wall between them had not disappeared, but it had cracked. Light was seeping through. Dangerous light. The kind that showed you things you might prefer to leave in darkness. They stayed in the line shack until the storm passed. Nathaniel tended to Kate's ankle, wrapping it with strips torn from an old shirt. The swelling was bad, but he was right about it not being broken. Just a severe sprain that would keep her off her feet for days. When dawn broke gray and cool, they rode back to the ranch house together, Kate seated in front of Nathaniel on his horse. She could feel the steady rhythm of his heartbeat against her back, could feel the careful way he held her, protective and uncertain. Maria met them at the door, her face tight with worry that melted into relief. But as her eyes took in Kate's injured ankle, Nathaniel's bare chest under his coat, the way they both looked exhausted and raw, something else crossed her features, understanding, and maybe resignation. "Inside, both of you," she ordered. "Mija, you need rest. Senor Cole, you need a shirt and coffee." As Nathaniel helped Kate into the house, Tommy appeared from the barn. The boy's eyes widened at the sight of them, then narrowed with concern. "Miss Kate, are you all right?" "I am fine, Tommy, just clumsy." But Tommy was not looking at her. He was looking at Nathaniel with an expression Kate could not quite read: suspicion, concern. The boy opened his mouth as if to say something, then closed it again. Maria settled Kate in her father's old chair, propped her foot up on a stool. The ankle was a mass of purple and black swollen to twice its normal size. While Nathaniel went to change, Maria brought cool compresses and began wrapping the joint with practiced efficiency. "What happened, Mija?" she asked softly. "I fell into an old mine shaft near the gap." Maria's hands stilled. "A mine shaft?" "You knew about it." It was not a question. Maria resumed wrapping her movements, mechanical. "Your father told me many things, made me promise to keep many secrets." "Why?" "If there is silver there, if we could be secure forever, why hide it? Because security means nothing if you are dead to enjoy it." Maria's voice was sharp. "Your father saw what happened to others who found minerals on their land. He chose safety over wealth. He chose you over riches." Kate felt tears prick her eyes again. Did he know that Harlow might have killed him? Maria's hands froze completely. She looked up, her dark eyes searching Kate's face. "What did Senor Cole tell you? That my father's death was too convenient, too well timed?" The older woman stood abruptly, moving to the window. Her back was rigid, her hands gripping the sill. When she spoke, her voice shook. "I have carried this alone for 6 months. 6 months of knowing and saying nothing, of watching you grieve while I held a secret that would break you further." Kate struggled to stand, but Maria turned, hand raised. "No, stay. You are injured, and I need to say this before I lose courage." She came back, sank into the chair opposite Kate. Her face looked older somehow, carved with lines of pain and guilt. "Your father was poisoned. I know because I found the bottle of arsenic hidden in Duncan Harlow's gift of whiskey. Your father loved that whiskey, drank a glass every night for 3 months before the sickness started. By the time I found the bottle, it was too late." The words fell like stones into still water, rippling out in waves of horror. Kate could not breathe, could not think beyond the single terrible truth. Murder. Her father had been murdered. "Why did you not tell me? Why did you not go to the sheriff?" "Because Harlow owns the sheriff. Because I had no proof beyond a bottle that could have come from anywhere. Because I was terrified he would kill you too, if I spoke up." Maria's face crumpled. "I am sorry, Mija. I chose your life over justice. I chose cowardice over courage." Kate wanted to rage, to scream, to break something. But looking at Maria's devastated face, she saw only another victim, another person Harlow had hurt. "We will make this right," Kate said quietly. "Somehow we will make him pay. How he has money, power, the law on his side. I do not know yet, but I will figure it out." Nathaniel returned then, dressed in a clean shirt. He took in the scene immediately, the tension, the tears on both women's faces. "What happened?" Kate told him. As she spoke, she watched his expression harden. By the time she finished, his hands had curled into fists. "I will kill him," he said simply. "No." Kate's voice was firm despite the tremor in it. "That would make you no better than him, and it would not bring my father back. Then what do you want to do?" "I want proof. I want evidence that will stand up even in Harlow's bought court. I want to destroy him the way he destroyed my father. Slowly, methodically, with the weight of truth he cannot escape. That could take time we might not have." As if summoned by his words, hoofbeats sounded outside. Multiple horses. Kate looked at Nathaniel, saw her own apprehension reflected in his eyes. They moved to the window together. 6 men rode up to the house. At their head was someone Kate recognized despite only having seen him twice in her life. Duncan Harlow. 50 years old and carrying his age well, He sat his horse with the confidence of a man who owned everything he surveyed. Behind him, hard-faced men who were clearly more than simple ranch hands. Harlow dismounted, adjusting his fine coat. Everything about him spoke of money, quality boots, expensive hat, a watch chain that caught the morning sun. He walked toward the house like a man approaching his own property. Kate stepped onto the porch before he could knock. Nathaniel appeared at her shoulder, and she felt rather than saw Maria take position in the doorway behind them. "Mr. Harlow," Kate said, her voice steady, "you are on my land uninvited." "Miss Winters," his smile did not reach his eyes. "I apologize for the intrusion. I heard about your recent troubles and wanted to offer my condolences and my help. I need neither. Perhaps, but hear me out." He pulled a folded document from his coat. "I am prepared to make you an offer for this ranch. A generous offer, $10,000, considerably more than it is worth in its current state. It is not for sale. Everything is for sale, Miss Winters. It is simply a matter of price." His eyes flicked to Nathaniel, then back. "Or perhaps you think your new hired man will save you. I would be careful there. Men like Cole are not known for their loyalty." Then Kate felt Nathaniel tense beside her. "I believe I asked you to leave, Mr. Harlow. I am trying to help you. This land—" He gestured broadly. "It is more valuable than you know. Your father knew. That is why he held on to it so stubbornly. But he also knew that such knowledge could be dangerous, fatal even." The implication hung in the air like smoke. Kate's hands clenched at her sides. "Are you threatening me?" "Threatening, no. Warning. There is a difference." Harlow's smile turned cold. "Your father was a stubborn man. It brought him nothing but hardship. And in the end, well, stubbornness can be deadly, can it not? Get off my land. I will give you 1 week to reconsider. After that, my offer expires, and other less pleasant options may need to be explored." He remounted his horse, looking down at her with something that might have been pity or satisfaction. "Good day, Miss Winters. Do think carefully about your future." He rode away, his men following like a pack of wolves. Kate stood frozen fury and fear warring inside her. Nathaniel's hand found hers, squeezed gently. "He just confessed," she whispered. "He essentially admitted to killing my father. Words we cannot prove, implications that mean nothing in court. Then we get proof." That evening, after Kate had been settled in her room with her ankle elevated, Nathaniel slipped out of the house. He told himself he was just checking the perimeter, making sure Harlow's men had truly left. But his feet carried him toward town, toward the back room of the Silver Dollar Saloon where he knew Silas Jenkins kept an office. The banker was there counting money by lamplight. He looked up as Nathaniel entered, his expression shifting from surprise to calculation. "Cole, I wondered when you would show up. We need to talk." "Indeed we do. Sit." Nathaniel remained standing. "Harlow visited the Winters ranch today, made threats. Duncan is impatient. He wants resolution. The woman nearly died yesterday. Give her time." Jenkins leaned back, steepling his fingers. "Time is expensive. Harlow has been more than patient. He paid you to get close to her to confirm the silver deposits. Have you done so?" "I am working on it." "Working on it?" Jenkins' voice hardened. "Or have you developed feelings that complicate your mission? I have seen how you look at her, Cole. Harlow has seen it too. He is not pleased." "My personal feelings are irrelevant. Are they? Because from where I sit, you have taken Harlow's money, paid off the girl's debt to buy yourself time and access, and now seem reluctant to deliver on your promises. That could be seen as theft or fraud. Both hang equally well in Texas." Nathaniel's hand moved toward his gun, then stopped. "Violence would solve nothing. What does Harlow want? Proof that there is silver worth mining, and the girl's agreement to sell, or barring that, her absence from the equation entirely." "You mean her death?" Jenkins shrugged. "I mean whatever it takes to secure the property. Harlow does not care about methods, only results. I will not hurt her. Then you have a problem, because Harlow will, with or without you." Nathaniel turned to leave, but Jenkins's voice stopped him. "One more thing, Cole. Your past is not as buried as you might like. Harlow knows about the Tanner incident, about the other incidents before that, about the warrant that was never served because you left Texas. He could resurrect all of that, could see you hang, unless you cooperate. Is that a threat?" Consider it friendly advice. You owe Harlow money and results. Deliver both or face consequences. You have until the end of the week." Nathaniel left without responding. He walked through the dark streets of Brownsville, his mind churning. He had known from the beginning this would get complicated, had known his plan to infiltrate Kate's life was morally dubious at best, but he had not counted on actually caring about her, on wanting to protect her rather than betray her. He had not counted on falling in love. The realization hit him like a physical blow. Love. The word tasted foreign, dangerous. He had spent 8 years avoiding attachments, avoiding anything that might root him to one place. And in 2 weeks, Kate Winters had undone all of that carefully constructed isolation. He was halfway back to the ranch when he realized he was being followed. Soft footsteps, careful, but not quite silent enough. Nathaniel ducked into an alley, hand on his gun. A small figure appeared in the moonlight. Tommy Reeve. "Boy, what are you doing out here?" Tommy stepped closer, and Nathaniel saw tears on the young face, but also anger, determination. "I followed you. I heard what that banker said. All of it." Nathaniel's stomach dropped. "Tommy, you do not understand. I understand you are a liar. I understand you are working for the man who killed Miss Kate's father. I understand you have been pretending to help when really you are a spy. It is more complicated than that." "No, it is not." Tommy's voice shook but did not break. "You tricked her. You made her trust you. And all this time you were planning to betray her." Nathaniel had no defense. Every word Tommy spoke was true. "What are you going to do?" "I am going to tell her. Tell her everything. She deserves to know." "She does." "But Tommy, wait. Let me explain it to her. Let me make this right. How? By lying more, by buying time while Harlow plans whatever he is planning." The boy shook his head. "No, I trusted you. I thought you were different, but you are just like all the other men who use people and throw them away. I care about Kate more than I should, more than is smart." "Then prove it. Tell her yourself, tonight, or I will." Tommy turned and ran, disappearing into the darkness. Nathaniel stood alone in the alley, the weight of his choices pressing down like a physical thing. He could run, take his horse and ride until Texas was a memory. Harlow would be furious, but Nathaniel had vanished before. He could do it again. But the thought of leaving Kate, of abandoning her to face Harlow alone, made him sick. Whatever else he had become, he was not quite that much of a coward. He walked back to the ranch slowly, trying to find words that did not exist. How did you confess betrayal to someone you loved? How did you ask forgiveness for sins still in progress? The house was dark when he arrived, except for a single lamp burning in the kitchen. Nathaniel approached, his boots loud on the wooden porch. Through the window, he could see Kate sitting at the table, waiting. She looked up as he entered. Her eyes were dry, but he could see she had been crying. On the table between them sat his saddlebags, open, and beside them a small leather journal. His journal, the one he had been writing in and burning pages from, the one he thought he had hidden well enough. "Tommy told me where to look," Kate said quietly, "before he ran off to find you. He said I needed to see what kind of man I had let into my home." Nathaniel said nothing. There was nothing to say. She had read it, had seen every damning word, every report he had written to Harlow describing the ranch, estimating the value of the mineral deposits, noting Kate's vulnerabilities. "The entries stopped 2 weeks ago," Kate continued. "The last one says you cannot go through with it, that you are done being the kind of man who sells his soul for money." She looked up at him. "Is that true, or is that just part of the lie?" "It is true." "How do I believe anything you say when everything has been a lie? I do not know." Nathaniel moved closer slowly, as if approaching a wounded animal. "I came here for money. For one last job, so I could finally have enough to stop running, to stop being what I have always been. And I met you. And everything changed." Pretty words. True words. He sank into the chair opposite her. "I am not a good man, Kate. I have done things that would horrify you. Hurt people who did not deserve it. Sold my services to whoever paid the most. Your father saw something in me once, something worth saving. But I do not know if there is enough left to save." Kate was silent, her fingers tracing the edge of his journal. "This entry from yesterday, after the mine shaft. You wrote that you would rather die than see me hurt, that you were done with Harlow, that you would find a way to protect me even if it destroyed you. I meant it. Did you—" Her eyes met his, and in them he saw not anger, but something worse, disappointment. "Because protecting me means telling me the truth, all of it. And you have been choosing yourself over honesty every single day." Nathaniel felt something crack inside his chest. She was right. Even his confession at the line shack had been partial, calculated, designed to ease his guilt while maintaining some measure of control. "You are right," he said simply. "I am sorry. Sorry does not undo the damage." "No, but it is all I have." Kate closed the journal, pushed it across the table toward him. "Tommy is sleeping in the barn. He is terrified of what will happen when Harlow finds out you have betrayed him. Maria is in her room praying, and I am sitting here trying to understand how I could have been so blind." "You were not blind. You were desperate, and I took advantage of that." "Yes, you did." She stood wincing as weight shifted to her bad ankle. "I want you gone by morning." The words should have brought relief. Instead, they felt like a death sentence. "Kate, please, let me help you. Let me finish what I started by actually protecting you from Harlow." "How by getting yourself killed by bringing more violence to this place?" She shook her head. "No, I will handle Harlow myself. He will destroy you. Maybe. But at least I will go down knowing I did not trust the wrong people." Nathaniel stood knowing argument was useless. He had lost her trust, lost any chance of redemption, lost the only good thing he had found in 8 years of searching. He walked to the door, paused with his hand on the frame. "For what it is worth, the man I was when I arrived is not the man I am now. You changed me, Kate Winters. Even if you never forgive me, even if I spend the rest of my life running, you changed me." He left before she could respond. Outside, the night was clear and cold. Stars blazed overhead, indifferent to human suffering. Nathaniel walked to his cabin, each step heavier than the last. Inside, he sat in darkness. He did not light a lamp, did not start a fire. He simply sat with the weight of his failures, his hands resting on his knees, his head bowed. This was what he deserved, this isolation, this loneliness. He had spent so long building walls to protect himself that he had forgotten how to let anyone in, and the one time he had tried, he had poisoned it with lies. A soft knock on the door. For one wild moment, hope surged. Kate had changed her mind. But when he opened it, Tommy stood there, his young face streaked with tears. "I am sorry," the boy whispered. "I should not have told her to read your journal. I was angry and hurt, and I wanted her to know the truth, but now she is crying, and Maria is crying, and everything is broken." Nathaniel pulled the boy inside, closed the door. "You did the right thing. She needed to know. But now you have to leave, and when you leave, Harlow will come, and he will hurt Miss Kate. I know he will. I will not let that happen. How can you stop it if you are gone?" That was the question. How could he protect Kate while respecting her wishes? How could he help without forcing his presence on her? The answer came slowly, taking shape in the darkness. "Tommy, I need you to do something for me." "What?" "I need you to watch over Kate. Keep her safe. And if Harlow makes any move against her, you ride to me. Wherever I am, you find me." "Where will you be?" "Close, watching, waiting." Nathaniel gripped the boy's shoulders. "I made promises I did not keep, told lies I cannot take back. But I will not abandon her, not when she needs protection most." Tommy nodded, his jaw set with determination beyond his years. "I will watch over her, I promise." After the boy left, Nathaniel packed his few belongings, but he did not pack to leave permanently. He packed to relocate, to set up camp in the hills overlooking the Winters Ranch where he could see anyone approaching, where he could be ready to intervene if Harlow's threats turned to action. He was no longer working for Harlow, was no longer even working for Kate since she had fired him. He was working for something simpler and more complicated, for love, for the chance to be worthy of the faith George Winters had placed in him 8 years ago, for the possibility of redemption. As false dawn painted the eastern sky, gray, Nathaniel took one last look at the ranch house. A light burned in Kate's window. He wondered if she was sleeping, or if, like him, she was awake wrestling with demons. He rode out quietly, heading for the hills. Behind him, the ranch slowly woke to a new day, a day without him in it, But he would be there unseen but watchful, a guardian she had not asked for, a protector she no longer trusted. It was not enough, he knew that, but it was all he had left to give. 3 days passed like years. Kate watched from her window as the ranch continued without Nathaniel each sunrise, a reminder of absence. Her ankle healed slowly, forcing her to stay inside while Tommy handled the work beyond his years. The boy moved with grim determination, taking on responsibilities that should have belonged to a grown man. Maria spoke little. She prepared meals in silence, her rosary beads constantly moving through her fingers. Sometimes Kate caught her staring at nothing, lips forming words no one could hear. The weight of secrets kept too long had carved new lines in her weathered face. On the 4th morning, Kate woke to the sound of riders, many riders. She pulled herself from bed, limped to the window, and felt her blood turn cold. Duncan Harlow sat at the head of a dozen armed men. They had not bothered to stop at the property line this time. They had ridden straight to her door like an invading army. Kate grabbed her father's shotgun and made her way downstairs. Maria was already at the door, her face pale, but composed. Tommy stood in the yard, his young hands clenched into fists, looking impossibly small against the wall of horses and men. "Step aside, boy," Harlow said, his voice carrying the casual authority of someone used to being obeyed. "This is private property, Mr. Harlow," Tommy called back, his voice cracking only slightly. "You are not welcome here." Harlow smiled without warmth. "I am here to speak with Miss Winters. Business that does not concern children. Run along before you get hurt." Kate pushed through the door, the shotgun heavy in her hands. "I have nothing to say to you." "Oh, I think you do." Harlow dismounted with practiced ease. "You see, I have been patient, given you time to grieve, time to come to your senses. But patience has limits. My offer expires today, $10,000 for this ranch. More than fair considering its condition. I told you, it is not for sale." "Everything is for sale." Harlow's eyes swept over the property with the assessment of a man calculating value. "The question is whether you sell willingly or whether circumstances force your hand. Are you threatening me? I am explaining reality. You are alone here. A woman with an injured ankle, an old Mexican servant, and a boy barely old enough to shave. You cannot run this ranch, cannot protect it, cannot even afford to keep it running through winter." He took a step closer. "Sell to me now, walk away with enough money to start fresh somewhere else, or refuse and watch everything your father built crumble to dust." Kate raised the shotgun. "Get off my land." Harlow stopped, but his smile never wavered. "That gun has 2 barrels. I have 12 men. Do the mathematics, Miss Winters." "The mathematics say you will be the first to die." For a moment, genuine surprise crossed Harlow's face. Then, something that might have been respect. "Your father was stubborn too. It did not serve him well in the end." The implication hung in the air like smoke. Kate's finger tightened on the trigger. "Say that again." "Your father was a fool. He sat on a fortune and chose poverty. He could have sold, could have lived comfortably. Instead, he held on to dirt and rocks and pride. And where did it get him? A grave before his time. You killed him." "I did nothing. If George Winters died, he died from his own stubbornness, from drinking too much, from letting the weight of this failing ranch crush him." Harlow's eyes glittered. "But I am offering you a way out, a chance your father never took. Be smarter than he was. My father was worth 10 of you, perhaps, but I am alive and wealthy, and he is dead and poor. Which would you prefer to be?" The shotgun wavered. Kate wanted to pull the trigger, wanted to end this man who stood before her, radiating arrogance and implicit confession. But Tommy stood between them, and behind Harlow, 12 armed men watched with the patient stillness of predators. "1 week," she heard herself say. "Give me 1 week to consider." Harlow's eyebrows rose. "A week? What will change in a week? I want time to think, to review my options, to make an informed decision." "Very well." Harlow remounted his horse. 1 week. "But understand this, Miss Winters, I am not a patient man by nature. This is the last extension, the final courtesy. After that, events will proceed as they must." He rode away, his men following like a dark tide. Kate stood on the porch until they disappeared. Then her legs gave out. She sank onto the steps, the shotgun clattering beside her. Tommy ran to her, his face streaked with tears he had refused to shed in front of Harlow. "Miss Kate, we have to get help. We have to tell someone." "Tell who the sheriff works for Harlow. The bank works for Harlow. Half the town owes him money or favors." Kate pressed her hands to her face. "We are alone in this." "No, you are not." The voice came from the side of the house. Nathaniel stepped into view, his appearance shocking Kate into silence. He looked different, thinner, harder. His clothes were dusty and his face unshaven, but his eyes burned with an intensity that made her breath catch. "You left," she whispered. "I moved." "There is a difference." He gestured toward the hills. "I have been camped up there since you told me to go, watching, making sure Harlow did not try anything." "You have been here the whole time. Where else would I be?" Kate felt something crack in her chest. Anger and relief and confusion all tangled together. "I told you to leave." "You told me to get out of your house. I did. You never said I had to leave Texas." Nathaniel moved closer, his boots loud on the wooden steps. "I heard everything Harlow said, every threat, every implication of what he did to your father. Words mean nothing without proof. Then we get proof. How he is too careful, too protected." Nathaniel crouched in front of her, his eyes level with hers. "I know where he keeps his private papers, documents he cannot risk being found, including evidence of business deals that were not entirely legal." "How do you know this?" "Because when I worked for him, he showed me. Trusted me with access to his office. He wanted me to understand the scope of his operations, the power he wielded." Nathaniel's jaw tightened. He was showing off, proving he was untouchable. But arrogance creates openings. Maria had come out onto the porch listening in silence. Now she spoke, her voice carrying a weight Kate had never heard before. "There is something you both need to know, something I should have told you long ago." Kate turned to look at the older woman. "What is it?" "Your father. He was not just a rancher. Before you were born, before I came to work here, he was a silver prospector. He and Duncan Harlow were partners. They found the deposits beneath Silver Creek together." The words fell like hammer blows. Kate struggled to process them. "Partners, my father and Harlow." "Yes, but when they realized how much silver was there, they disagreed about what to do. Harlow wanted to bring in investors, turn this into a mining operation. Your father wanted to keep it small, controlled. They fought. The partnership dissolved. Your father bought out Harlow's stake for a fraction of what it was worth. So Harlow has been trying to get it back ever since." "More than that." Maria's hands twisted together. "There is something else, something harder to say." She took a deep breath, and Kate saw tears forming in the dark eyes. "I am not just your servant, Mija. I am your mother, your real mother." The world tilted. Kate felt as if the ground beneath her feet had turned to water. "What? Your father and I. We loved each other. But he was already married when you were conceived. His wife could not have children. It was destroying their marriage, so we made an arrangement. I would give birth in secret. His wife would raise you as her own. I would stay on as a servant to be near you to watch you grow." Kate could not breathe, could not think beyond the single, impossible truth. Maria, her mother, the woman who had raised her, who had been there every day of her life, was her actual mother. "You lied to me. All these years you lied. I protected you." "There is a difference." Maria's voice broke. "Do you think I wanted to hide to watch my daughter call another woman mother? But it gave you legitimacy, inheritance, a future, everything I could never give you myself." "Does Harlow know?" "Yes, he discovered the truth years ago, used it to blackmail your father. Threatened to reveal the scandal, destroy your reputation, unless George gave him what he wanted. Your father refused, and Harlow began his campaign to take everything by force." Nathaniel stood slowly. "The arsenic. You said you found it in whiskey Harlow sent. Do you still have the bottle?" Maria nodded. "Hidden. I was too afraid to destroy it, too afraid to show it to anyone." "Get it. And anything else that connects Harlow to your father's death. Letters, receipts, anything." "Why?" Kate's voice was hollow. "What are you planning?" "To break into Harlow's ranch tonight. To find the documents that prove what he did, and to end this once and for all." "That is insane. He has men everywhere. You will be killed." "Maybe, but at least you will have evidence. Proof that might stand up even in a corrupted system." Nathaniel looked at her steadily. I owe you this, Kate. I owe your father. I owe the man I was supposed to become 8 years ago. This is not about debts anymore. No, it is about love, and doing the right thing even when it costs everything. The words hung between them. Kate wanted to argue to forbid him from this suicide mission, but looking at his face she saw determination that could not be swayed. He had made his choice. Then I am coming with you. Kate, no, your ankle is healing, and this is my fight more than yours. She struggled to her feet, using the porch railing for support. My father, my inheritance, my battle. If you are going to risk your life, you do not get to do it alone. I will come too, Tommy said, his young voice fierce. You will need someone to watch the horses, to warn you if anyone comes. Nathaniel looked at the three of them, an injured woman, a boy, an old servant, the most unlikely band of criminals in Texas history. Then he smiled, the expression transforming his face. Your father would be proud of you, he said to Kate. Stubborn to the end. They spent the afternoon preparing. Maria retrieved the arsenic bottle from its hiding place behind a loose stone in the cellar. The whiskey inside was 3/4 gone, the liquid at the bottom cloudy with dissolved poison. She also produced letters, notes from Harlow to George Winters, vague but threatening, references to debts and obligations and consequences. As the sun began its descent, they gathered in the kitchen. Nathaniel had drawn a rough map of Harlow's ranch from memory. The main house, the bunkhouse where his men slept, the office where he kept his private safe. We go in after midnight, Nathaniel explained. Most of the men will be asleep. Harlow sleeps in the east wing, far from his office. We will have maybe 20 minutes before someone notices we are there. How do we get into the safe? Kate asked. I know the combination. He trusted me with it back when he thought I was fully bought. And if we are caught, Nathaniel's expression hardened, we fight our way out, or we die trying. The hours until midnight stretched like taffy. Kate tried to rest, but could not quiet her mind. She lay in her father's old room, staring at the ceiling, thinking about everything Maria had revealed. Her mother, right there in the house, every day, every moment. How had she never seen it? A soft knock. Maria entered without waiting for permission. She carried a lamp, the light casting shadows across her face. In those shadows, Kate saw it now. The shape of her own nose, the curve of her own jaw. How had she been so blind? I do not expect forgiveness, Maria said quietly. What I did, hiding the truth, it was a betrayal. You were trying to protect me. Yes, but protection built on lies is still a cage. Maria sat on the edge of the bed. When you were born, I held you for 10 minutes. Then they took you away, gave you to another woman to nurse, to raise. Those 10 minutes had to last me 26 years. Kate felt tears burning. Did you love him, my father? With everything I had, he was a good man, a kind man. But he was already married, already committed. We both knew our love could never be more than stolen moments. And his wife, did she know? I think so. She never said anything, but the way she looked at me sometimes, the way she held you, like she was terrified someone would take you away. Maria's voice broke. She loved you as much as any mother could. Please do not think otherwise. Kate reached out, taking Maria's weathered hand. I am angry, confused, hurt, but I do not hate you. I could never hate you. You are more forgiving than I deserve. They sat in silence, hands clasped, until Nathaniel appeared in the doorway. He had changed into dark clothes, a gun belt strapped across his hips. It is time. The ride to Harlow's ranch took an hour through darkness, broken only by starlight. They moved in silence, 4 shadows on horseback. Tommy led the way, his young eyes sharp in the night. Kate rode, despite the pain in her ankle, her jaw set with determination. Maria had insisted on coming, carrying the evidence wrapped in oilcloth. The Cross T Ranch sprawled across a valley bigger and richer than the Winters property. Lights burned in a few windows of the main house, but most of the compound lay dark. They tethered the horses in a grove of cottonwoods half a mile out. Tommy, you stay here, Nathaniel instructed. If we are not back in an hour ride for the sheriff, even if he is corrupt, create enough noise that Harlow cannot silence this. Yes, sir. Nathaniel looked at Kate and Maria. Last chance to turn back. Not a chance, Kate replied. They approached on foot, using shadows and silence. The bunkhouse was quiet snores drifting through open windows. A single guard walked the perimeter, his steps methodical and bored. They waited until he passed, then slipped through a side door Nathaniel had left unlocked during his previous employment. The interior of the house was opulent. Rich carpets, expensive paintings, everything about it screamed wealth built on the backs of others. Nathaniel led them down a hallway to a heavy oak door, the office. He tried the handle, locked. From his pocket he produced a thin piece of metal. Kate watched in fascination as he worked the lock, his movements practiced and sure. Within seconds, the mechanism clicked open. Inside the office was dominated by a massive desk and a wall safe hidden behind a painting of a bull. Nathaniel went straight to it, his fingers spinning the combination lock. 3 tries. 4. Then the heavy door swung open. Documents filled the interior. Deeds, contracts, letters. Nathaniel began sorting through them with quick efficiency, pulling out anything that looked relevant. Kate joined him, her hands shaking as she unfolded papers and read by the light of Maria's shaded lamp. There. A contract between Harlow and a chemist in San Antonio. Payment for 5 vials of arsenic. The date was 7 months ago, 1 month before George Winters fell ill. Another document. A deed to the Winters ranch already drawn up, already signed by Harlow, just waiting for Kate's signature, or for her absence to make it irrelevant. Letters from Silas Jenkins detailing the foreclosure timeline. Notes about applying pressure. Suggestions for making Kate desperate enough to sell. And then, at the bottom of the stack, something that made Kate's blood run cold. A ledger, names and dates. Other ranchers who had stood in Harlow's way. Next to each name, a date. And next to each date, a notation. Accident, illness, disappeared. 7 men, all dead or missing, all within the last 5 years. All had owned property Harlow now controlled. This is it, Nathaniel breathed. This is enough to hang him. Not just him, Kate said, pointing to another page. Jenkins, the sheriff, half the town council. They are all complicit. Maria made a sound. They turned to see her standing by the desk holding a small glass vial. Inside, clear liquid caught the lamplight. More arsenic. He keeps it here, like a trophy. The door behind them opened. Duncan Harlow stood in the entrance, a pistol in his hand. Behind him, 3 of his men filled the hallway. I thought I heard rats in my office, Harlow said calmly. How predictable. Cole, I am disappointed. I thought you were smarter than this. Nathaniel moved in front of Kate, his hand dropping to his gun. Do not do this, Harlow. Do what defend my property from thieves. I am well within my rights to shoot all 3 of you. Harlow's eyes moved to Maria. Well, well. The Mexican whore. Come to steal from me too. George always did have poor taste in women. Maria's face remained impassive, but Kate felt rage boiling in her chest. You murdered my father. Did I prove it? We have proof. Kate held up the ledger. Names, dates, payments to a chemist, arsenic in your safe. Enough evidence to see you hanged. Harlow laughed. Evidence you obtained by breaking into my home. Inadmissible in any court. And even if it were not, who do you think controls the courts, the judges, the law? He gestured with the pistol. Put it all back. Then get on your knees, all of you. No, Nathaniel said quietly. I am sorry, did you misunderstand? I have a gun. You have defiance. One of these things is more useful than the other. You are going to shoot us anyway. Whether we kneel or stand makes no difference. Nathaniel's hand moved closer to his holster. So how about this? You let the women go. They walk out of here with that evidence. And you and I settle this the old-fashioned way. A duel. Harlow's lip curled. How romantic. How utterly stupid. Scared. Of you. Please, I have killed better men before breakfast. Then prove it. Unless you only feel brave when you have poison and hired guns. Harlow's face flushed. Pride, Kate realized. Nathaniel was playing to the man's arrogance, challenging his ego. It was working. She could see Harlow considering weighing the risk against the satisfaction. Fine, Harlow said. Your funeral, Jenkins? Silas Jenkins appeared from somewhere behind the men, his expression nervous. Yes, Mr. Harlow. Witness. If Cole wins, which he will not, the women go free with their papers. If I win, everything stays as it was. Agreed. Agreed, Nathaniel said. They moved outside the group, following in tense silence. The sky had clouded over, blocking the stars. Wind whispered through the grass, carrying the scent of rain. Harlow and Nathaniel stood 20 paces apart in the yard. Kate wanted to scream to stop this madness, but Nathaniel caught her eye and shook his head slightly. "Trust me." One of Harlow's men counted. 10 paces. Turn. Fire. They turned their backs to each other. Kate's heart hammered so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. The count began. 1, 2, 3, each number an eternity. Each step taking Nathaniel further from her. 7, 8, 9, 10. They turned. 2 shots cracked through the night. Kate screamed. Harlow staggered, a red bloom spreading across his shoulder. Nathaniel stood untouched, smoke curling from his pistol barrel. Before Harlow's men could react, Tommy emerged from the darkness, his rifle trained on them. "Do not move," the boy said, his voice steady, despite his trembling hands. "Miss Kate, are you all right?" "Tommy, you were supposed to stay with the horses." "And miss the excitement?" "Not likely." Harlow had dropped his gun, clutching his wounded shoulder. His face was pale with shock and pain. You actually shot me." "I did," Nathaniel agreed, "and I will shoot you again if you do not shut up." He looked at Jenkins. "You witnessed. I won. The women go free with the evidence." Jenkins looked like he wanted to vomit. This is not legal. This is not binding." "It is binding enough." A new voice cut through the night. Sheriff Tom Riley rode into the yard, 6 deputies behind him. "I heard gunshots. Looks like I arrived just in time." Kate's stomach dropped. The sheriff. Harlow's man. They were finished. But Riley was not looking at them. He was looking at Harlow with an expression of cold satisfaction. "Duncan Harlow, I am placing you under arrest for the murder of George Winters, among other crimes." "You cannot arrest me," Harlow sputtered. "I own you." "Owned. Past tense." Riley dismounted, producing iron shackles. "See, a funny thing happened last week. My daughter got sick. Really sick. Doctor said it might be poison. And I started thinking about George Winters, about how he got sick the same way. Started wondering if maybe working for you was going to get my family killed too." He snapped the shackles on Harlow's wrists. "So I went through some old files. Found a letter George sent me before he died. Said if anything happened to him, I should look into you. He did not have proof then, but he knew, and he wanted someone to know he knew." Kate felt tears streaming down her face. Her father, even in death, fighting for justice, for truth. "The evidence," she managed. "We have more evidence." "Good. Bring it to my office tomorrow, along with statements from all of you." Riley looked at Nathaniel. "You are that Cole fellow, the one who left town years back." "Yes, sir." "George spoke well of you, said you had potential. Guess he was right." Riley tipped his hat to Kate. "Your father was a good man, Miss Winters. I am sorry I did not act sooner. Sorry I let fear make me a coward." He hauled Harlow toward his horse. The wounded man struggled, swearing and threatening, but his power had broken. Everyone could see it. The Emperor, stripped of his clothes, revealed as just another criminal facing justice. Jenkins tried to slip away, but Maria stepped in front of him. "Not so fast, senor. You have questions to answer too." Before Maria could continue, a gunshot cracked through the night. Everyone froze. Tommy stumbled from behind the wagon, his hand pressed to his left arm, blood seeping between his fingers. "Tommy!" Kate screamed, breaking free from Nathaniel's protective stance. One of Harlow's men stood with a smoking pistol, his face pale with shock. He was sneaking around. "I thought he was." Nathaniel was on the man in seconds, disarming him with brutal efficiency. "You shot a boy, you coward." Tommy's face was white but determined. "I am all right, Miss Kate. Just grazed me. I have had worse from barbed wire." But Kate was already tearing a strip from her skirt, wrapping the wound with shaking hands. The bullet had carved a furrow across his upper arm, deep enough to bleed freely, but not life-threatening. "You foolish, brave boy." "Someone had to watch your back," Tommy said through gritted teeth. Sheriff Riley knelt beside them, examining the wound. "He will live, but that man just shot an unarmed minor in front of witnesses. That is assault with intent. Another charge for Mr. Harlow's collection." The banker's face crumpled. I was just following orders." "You helped murder a good man. For money." Maria's voice was cold. "There is a special place in hell for men like you." Riley took Jenkins too, loading both men into a wagon like common criminals. As the sheriff prepared to leave, he paused beside Kate. "Your father. He asked me to give you a message if anything happened. Said to tell you that Silver Creek would save you, that you just had to be brave enough to face what was buried." He rode away, taking Harlow and Jenkins and their empire of corruption with him. Kate stood in the yard, the evidence still clutched in her hands, hardly daring to believe it was over. Nathaniel approached slowly, as if afraid she might bolt. "Kate, you could have been killed, but I was not. You risked everything. For you, it was worth it." She looked at him, this man who had lied and betrayed and finally chosen redemption. "I do not know if I can trust you." "I know. Trust has to be earned. I understand that now. But I do know that you saved my life tonight, saved my home, gave me justice for my father." Kate's voice broke. "That has to count for something. It does not erase what I did." "No, but maybe it starts to balance the scales." Maria had been standing quietly with Tommy. Now she approached her hand, finding Kate's. "Mija, what Nathaniel did tonight, it was the act of a man who loves you, who would die for you. That is not nothing." Kate looked at their joined hands, her mother's hand. Strange how something so familiar could suddenly feel so new. "I need time to process everything, to understand who I am now with all these truths I did not know." "Take all the time you need," Nathaniel said. "I will be here, or wherever you want me to be." "Not here, not yet." Kate met his eyes. "Go, make something of yourself. Become the man my father saw in you, the man I glimpsed beneath the lies. And if in 6 months you come back and you are that man," she paused, "then maybe we can start again. Honestly this time." Nathaniel nodded slowly. 6 months. 6 months. He turned to go, then stopped. "Kate, thank you for giving me a second chance. I will not waste it." She watched him ride away, Tommy following to help him gather his things. When they were gone, she turned to Maria, to her mother. The words still felt strange, foreign, but not wrong. "What happens now?" Maria asked softly. "Now we go home. We bury the past properly. And we start building the future." They rode back to the Lazy W as dawn broke over the Texas hills. When they arrived home, Kate helped Tommy down from his horse, the boy's face gray with pain despite his bravado. Maria took over immediately, her hands steady as she cleaned and rebandaged the wound. "You are a brave one, Niño," Maria murmured. "Foolish but brave." Like Miss Kate, Tommy managed a weak smile. After settling Tommy in bed with laudanum for the pain, Maria found Kate standing in her father's office. The room that had witnessed so many moments of grief now felt different, lighter somehow. "Mija," Maria said softly, "may I?" Kate nodded, and Maria entered, closing the door behind her. For a long moment, they simply looked at each other, mother and daughter. The truth finally spoken, the lies finally buried. "I do not know how to be your daughter," Kate admitted. "I have spent 26 years being someone else's child. And I do not know how to be your mother in the open," Maria replied. "I have spent 26 years loving you from the shadows." She crossed the room, took Kate's hands in her own weathered ones. "But perhaps we do not need to know. Perhaps we simply start. Today, now, as we are." Kate felt tears welling again, but this time they were not born of grief. "I would like that." "Your father," Maria said carefully, "he loved you more than his own life. What he and I did hiding the truth, it was to protect you, to give you everything. Do you understand?" "I think so. I am trying to." "That is enough. Understanding takes time. But love." Maria smiled, the expression transforming her careworn face. "Love we already have. We have always had it." They embraced then truly for the first time, as mother and daughter acknowledged. The years of distance could not be erased, but they could be bridged, one honest moment at a time. The land looked different in the early light, not barren, not dying, but sleeping, waiting, full of potential beneath the surface. 6 months passed like a river each day, carrying Kate further from the woman she had been and closer to who she was becoming. The trial of Duncan Harlow became the talk of Texas. Newspapers sent reporters from as far as Austin and Houston. The evidence Kate and Nathaniel had recovered proved damning beyond dispute. The ledger alone implicated Harlow in 7 deaths. The arsenic purchase, coupled with Maria's testimony about the poisoned whiskey, sealed his fate. Silas Jenkins turned state's witness, hoping to save his own neck. He testified for 3 days, detailing every scheme, every manipulation, every dirty deal. His cooperation earned him life in prison instead of the noose. Harlow was not so fortunate. He was sentenced to hang, though appeals would drag on for months. Kate attended every day of the trial, sitting in the front row where Harlow could see her. She wanted him to know that George Winter's daughter had not broken, had not surrendered, had won. The mine at Silver Creek was opened carefully, with Kate hiring a reputable engineer from Denver to assess the deposits. There was silver, though not the legendary fortune rumors had suggested. Enough to make Kate comfortable. Enough to hire workers at fair wages and restore the ranch to prosperity. Enough to never fear the bank again. Tommy recovered fully from his wound, though the scar remained. He wore it with quiet pride, a badge of courage earned in defense of the only family he had. Kate promoted him to foreman on his 17th birthday. The boy had earned it 10 times over. Maria and Kate navigated their new relationship one careful step at a time. They had Sunday dinners together, where Maria sat not as a servant, but as Kate's mother. They talked about George, remembering him together, sharing stories from different perspectives. Some days were harder than others. Some conversations ended in tears or tense silences. But they were trying. That was what mattered. Kate received 3 letters from Nathaniel during those 6 months. The first came from New Mexico, brief and formal. He had found work rebuilding a town devastated by fire. The second came from Colorado, longer, more personal. He wrote about learning carpentry, about making amends with people he had wronged. The third arrived just last week from Dallas. It said only, "Coming home soon, if home will still have me." Kate had not replied to any of them. She did not trust words on paper, did not know if she trusted him yet at all. But she had kept each letter, tucked them into her father's desk drawer, waiting, wondering. And now, on this golden February afternoon, she would have her answer. A single rider appeared on the horizon, tall in the saddle, familiar in the way he moved. As he drew closer, Kate's heart began to race. Nathaniel had returned. He looked different, cleaner, more settled. He dismounted slowly, removing his hat. In his eyes she saw no deception, no hidden agendas, just hope and fear and love. 6 months, he said simply. So I see. Kate stood, her heeled ankle steady beneath her. What did you do with them? Worked. Saved money honestly this time. Helped rebuild a town in New Mexico that had burned. Learned carpentry. Made amends with people I had hurt. He took a step closer. Tried to become someone worthy of you. And did you succeed? I do not know. That is not for me to judge. Kate studied him. The lines around his eyes, the calluses on his hands, the way he stood before her, open and vulnerable, waiting for her verdict. I have been thinking, she said slowly, about debts and payments, about what we owe each other and ourselves, and I realized something. What? My father did not save you so you would owe him. He saved you because he believed in redemption, because he thought every person deserves a chance to become better. She moved closer. And I think he was right. Kate, I am not saying I trust you completely. Trust takes time. But I am saying I am willing to try, to see if we can build something honest, something real. Nathaniel's face transformed, hope blazing into certainty. I will spend every day earning that trust, every moment proving I am worthy of it. I know, Kate smiled the expression, feeling strange after so many months of seriousness. Welcome home, Nathaniel. He closed the distance between them, his hands gentle on her face. I love you. I should have said it before, but I am saying it now. I love you, Kate Winters. I know. She stood on her toes, her lips finding his. I love you too. The kiss was soft, promising, full of future rather than past. When they parted, Maria was smiling through tears. Your father would be happy, she said, to see you both here, together. Kate took Nathaniel's hand, laced her fingers through his. They stood together looking out at Silver Creek in the distance. The water caught the sunset, turning it molten gold. "He left me a legacy," Kate said quietly. "Not just land or silver, but the example of mercy, of second chances, of believing people can be better than their worst mistakes." "That is a good legacy," Nathaniel agreed. "Yes." Kate leaned against his shoulder, feeling his arm come around her waist. Strong, steady, real, the best kind. The sun set completely, stars emerging one by one across the darkening sky. The creek whispered its eternal song. The wind carried the scent of earth and rain and growing things. And on the porch of the house George Winters had built with his own hands, his daughter stood with the man he had saved, the woman who had borne her, and the future they would build together. The debt was paid, not in money, not in blood, but in something more valuable. In growth, in change, in the hard work of becoming better than you were, in the courage to forgive, in the strength to love despite past betrayals. The debt was paid, and in its payment something new had been created. Something worth more than all the silver buried beneath the creek. A family, chosen and earned and built on truth. Kate looked up at Nathaniel, at this man who had traveled so far to repay a debt and stayed to claim a future. "What do we do now?" He smiled, the expression lighting his entire face. Now we live, together, honestly, for as long as we are given." "That sounds perfect." And it was, not because it was easy, not because the past was erased, but because they had fought for it, earned it, paid for it with honesty and courage and the willingness to be better. The silver beneath the creek had saved the ranch, but love hard won and honestly claimed had saved something infinitely more precious. It had saved them all.